Hey, Big Train fans. Welcome to our 2020 virtual baseball and holiday auction.
I missed seeing all of you at Povich Field this summer, but I'm excited for our Big Train family to come together tonight.
Over the next hour, you'll hear from a fantastic guest speaker, stars from our 2019 championship team, and Big Train staff members and awardees.
Plus, we'll keep you updated on the week's auction items, which you can learn more about just by clicking on the link below. But so just sit back, relax, and enjoy the show and bid more and more.
Welcome, Big Train fans. I'm Bruce Adams. I hope you and your families had a wonderful and safe Thanksgiving. John Orsman and I founded the Bethesda Community Baseball Club in 1998 with a goal of providing local baseball fans with family fun at affordable prices right near home. Part of that fun back in the day was an annual Big Train baseball and holiday auction to bring the Big Train family together in the off-season. We're not letting the virus stop the fun, as we're bringing you 4 virtual specials. Our first show with ESPN's Tim Kirchin and our second with Walter Johnson's grandson and biographer Hank Thomas are available on the archives page at www.bigtrain.org. Tonight we have something very special for you. When we announced tonight's topic a month ago, Women Love Baseball, How Can Baseball Love Them Back? Little did we know that Derek Jeter would provide a perfect answer by selecting Kim Engel as the new general manager of the Miami Marlins. To kick off tonight's special, we welcome Christine Brennan, sports columnist for USA Today, and our very own Peggy Engel, my spouse, who has had so much to do with the success of Big Train Baseball. There's a week-long online auction associated with each of our 4 Sunday night specials to help you with your holiday shopping. You can find this week's auction at www.bigtrain.org/auction. Before we hear from Christine and Peggy, let me tell you about just 3 of the week's featured items. Famed baseball cartoonist Ronnie Joyner, who has drawn Big Train souvenir program covers of Walter Johnson, Shirley Povich, and others, will do one of his classic bio illustrations for you. A Washington Spirit jersey signed by Jordan DiBiasi, the number 3 overall draft pick and an All-American out of Stanford. And a very special treat for Orioles fans. I know you love, as I do, the iconic sculptures of Cal Ripken, Eddie Murray, Brooks Robinson, Jim Palmer, Frank Robinson, and Earl Weaver that grace the picnic grove beyond the center field wall at Camden Yards. The artist, Toby Mendez, has agreed to join us for a game and a tour. I'll drive you and a friend to Camden Yards, buy you dinner, tour the statue area, and watch a game. Get the inside scoop on working with the heroes of Birdland from the guy who turned them into bronze. Our general manager, Chris Rogers, has done a fabulous job presenting these items to make your holiday shopping incredibly easy. Bidding closes on these items on Wednesday night, December 2nd at 10 o'clock. These are first-rate items, most of which you'll be able to secure at below full value prices. Your family and friends will be so excited to receive these gifts. So bid often, bid high. The money we raise from our holiday auction will help us bring the fun back to Shirley Povich Field in 2021 after this horrible year. With your support, we're going to dedicate the 2021 season to the nurses, doctors, grocery store clerks, and public safety workers who are helping us get through this crisis. And now for the main event. I'm certain we will learn some new ways to make Big Train baseball at Shirley Povich Field one of the most welcoming and fan-friendly environments in all of baseball. It's all yours, Peggy.
Thanks, Bruce. Hi, Big Train fans. I'm Peggy Engel. Pleased to be here tonight to discuss Women Love Baseball, How Can Baseball Love Them Back? With my good friend, Christine Brennan. Christine, now a sports columnist for USA Today, has been a pioneer in sports journalism. The first female sports reporter for the Miami Herald in 1981, the first female reporter from the Washington Post to cover the Washington Football Club, and winner of the Mary Garber Pioneer Award from the Association for Women in Sports Media. And she's on the advisory board of the Povich Center for Sports Journalism at the University of Maryland, along with me. We're going to examine women as baseball managers and front office administrators, as players, and mostly as fans. As Bruce said, when the Big Train announced tonight's topic last month, we had no idea that Derek Jeter would select Kim Engel as the new general manager of the Miami Marlins, a first for women. So let's start there. Christine, 2 decades from now, when we look back on the selection of Kim Eng as the Marlins GM, how significant do you think it will be?
Peggy, I think it would be very significant because there, at that point, 20 years from now, I'm the eternal optimist, there may well be 4, 5, 6, 7 other women general managers in Major League Baseball. And even more importantly, I know this is a baseball conversation, but just to broaden it out a bit, I think we will be seeing the same kind of progress finally in the NBA, in the NFL, in the NHL, and all of, in other words, our major men's pro sports, where we'll see women GMs. We will see women coaching in the NBA, which head coaches, which we're seeing a lot of assistant coaches right now. I think this is just the beginning. And so 20 years from now, hard to believe if you think of 2040, looking back at 2020, this will be one of the highlights in the most positive ways in our culture and sports over this bizarre and tragic and sad year of 2020. And it will be seen as a bright light. And it will also be seen as that stepping stone, as Vice President-elect Kamala Harris said, I'm the first, but I'm certainly do not plan or I will not be the last. Well, the same for Kim Eng. She is just the beginning. And what a fabulous role model, the perfect person to be that first person, Peggy. I know her, we've been on a panel together. I don't know her well, but every way and the hard work and the dedication and all these years that she's been in the business, should have probably happened 10, 15, 20 years ago with her. Nonetheless, it has happened. And it is such a joyous occasion, not just for women, but also for the game of baseball that desperately needs women. It desperately needs to diversify, and it needs to show the world and future fans that women are welcome and girls are welcome. They need women desperately in a sport that's having demographic issues. So it's all wrapped into one, such a wonderful thing. And I think it will be seen as just the start, just the beginning when we look back on it.
Well, it's also exciting to see some of the other positions that women are taking a big role in. We've got a Bethesda born and raised Eve Rosenbaum, and she's been selected to be Director of Baseball Operations for the Baltimore Orioles. Do you know her, Christine? Is she someone you've crossed paths with, Eve Rosenbaum?
Absolutely, I have. I know her dad, Greg, and I met Eve at a women's soccer game at RFK many years ago. But I'm also very aware of her because of her dad, and we have a connection through Toledo, Ohio, and our roots there, and also going to a game or two together. So a great baseball family. And again, this is no surprise. I mean, there is absolutely nothing shocking about what's happening. Girls growing up, I grew up loving baseball at a time, and other sports at a time when girls were not encouraged to love or play sports, but my dad was my own personal Title IX, and he encouraged me, and my mom, of course, did as well. Well, Eve, the same thing, obviously, the next generation, a dad who loved baseball, a mom who loved baseball, and the word no was never said to her. Sure, go ahead, play baseball. And even if everyone in the neighborhood was saying, this is weird, well, they didn't care. And look what happens when you follow your dreams. And look what happens when you encourage not only your son, but your daughter to play a sport. Thankfully, now we're there in this country with Title IX and the incredible success story of that law signed by Richard Nixon in June of 1972, almost 50 years ago now. And so Eve is exactly that kind of young woman who we are now seeing bubble to the surface, her love of sports not stopped, not hindered in any way. And now what do we see? We see leadership. We see fabulous leaders. And yes, she's a leader for the Orioles, the way that Kim Eng is of course, a leader with the Miami Marlins, but they're also leaders for our nation. And they're role models for our daughters and our nieces and our granddaughters and the girl next door. And they're also role models for boys and young men, looking at women and respecting women in a way that their fathers or their grandfathers just never would have contemplated.
It's so exciting. And there's another Orioles connection. I'm thinking of Janet Marie Smith, the pioneering ballpark designer. She was the woman who designed Oriole Park and Atlanta's new stadium, among many others. And she's now senior VP for the LA Dodgers. So I'm encouraged that we're seeing women in some of these back office and front office and GM positions. But I remember back to the time when Shirley Povich, the legendary male sports writer legend, was listed in Who's Who of American Women. The LA Times loved the era so much that they splashed pictures of Mamie Eisenhower, Liz Taylor, Eleanor Roosevelt, Claire Booth Luce, and Povich, although Povich had a cigar. And Walter Cronkite sent a telegram asking, "Miss Povich, will you marry me?" Somehow baseball has had difficulty in integrating women into the picture. And I think that it's only good that this is changing. So I wanted to ask you, Christine, when you attend the winter meetings, for example, or if you're in an atmosphere where there are a lot of teams there, have you ever heard it discussed that what should we do to bring more women through the turnstiles in baseball, and what should we do to bring women into the front and back offices of baseball? Is this ever a topic of conversation?
In a word, no. Peggy, I have to say, though, I've never covered the winter meetings. I have covered World Series, including the recent World Series in Washington, 2019, with the Nationals, of course, winning that World Series in such an amazing and improbable way, and captivating, this town, and of course, all baseball lovers everywhere. And I've covered other World Series as well. And I have to say, and this is just not a baseball problem, but this is something, of course, I write about, I talk about a lot. And it's, these leagues have really, let's just be honest, they've done a terrible job of realizing this incredible tidal wave, if we want to call it, of Title IX, of these women, millions and millions of girls and women, not just, by the way, playing softball or baseball, but playing field hockey and tennis and volleyball and basketball, that are being now pumped out of our high schools and colleges, who are going to want to play sports the rest of their lives. They're going to watch sports the rest of their lives. They're going to have children or nieces and nephews or whatever who are going to love sports. And they also have disposable income because they're great successes, because they learned how to win. And even more important, they learned how to lose at a young age. They learned about teamwork and sportsmanship, all those great lessons from this fabulous law, Title IX. And here they are. And the sport of golf, for example, has done a terrible job of encouraging women to play golf by putting stop signs out for women and saying no members at Augusta National, et cetera, until 2012. So this isn't just baseball, and this isn't just a mini tirade here against baseball, not at all. I love the game of baseball, and I knew that I could love it as a girl, even if I couldn't play it other than with the boys in my neighborhood in the suburbs of Toledo, Ohio. But that was a different era. Now girls can play it. And of course, softball is blossomed and is back in the Olympics, and that's wonderful. But I think that all of these leagues should really look at and examine the inherent sexism and misogyny that has been there for so long that they never even thought of this. When in fact, it's not just about doing the right thing, and also honoring and rewarding smart, great people like Kim Eng or like Eve, people who are ready and they're sitting there waiting for these jobs, and obviously not waiting, working hard, but being passed over for other jobs. We're seeing in the NBA, everywhere. But not only just missing that, but also sending that message to this fan base that is by definition your growth industry. It's your untapped market, women and girls. You got the boys. Game of golf has the boys, they have the men. They've done a great job of getting white men to play golf. Baseball's done a great job of getting men to play the game. But where are you with women? And we have seen more and more of it, and girls being able to play Little League, and that it has happened. But it's a shame, frankly, and I hate to be, so critical, but I will be, because I'm going to be honest. It's just a shame that we're well into the 21st century, and yet they're acting like they're coming into the latter part of the 20th century. They've really missed the boat. Now they're going to try to catch up. That's great. But think of all the women, Peggy, out there who could have been promoted,
right,
could have done things that were passed over and then maybe just left the industry, left baseball, left other sports. And that is a shame. And that is on the leaders of baseball and other sports. The white men, love white men, but they blew it. Now they're catching up, but they better catch up fast in baseball, because as I said, they have a demographic problem. They have to get kids, young people, to watch the game and follow the game. And these kids' attention spans, as we know, are not geared to baseball. So lots is wrapped up in this answer, but I do think it's much more than just sports. It's our culture. And as we see women emerge, and obviously our first woman vice president, and so many women in Congress, and of course we have a state senator here with us, so many others, This is all part and parcel of the same conversation. If you've got a girl in your house, put a baseball mitt on her hand and get her out there, because that means you are part of what is a growing and incredible trend that changes not just sports, but our nation.
Yes. Well, what's startling to me, as far as engaging the fan base, that there were efforts in the past that sort of died out. And I'm really talking about Bill Veeck, who was owner of the Cleveland Indians and later the Chicago White Sox. And he revived what his father had revived in the 1890s, the history of Ladies' Day. That gave women hard to find nylon stockings during World War II and filled the stadiums. And he imported orchids from Hawaii and gave them to every woman who came to the park. He had in-park babysitting. He improved the women's bathrooms. In fact, in some stadiums, there weren't even bathrooms for women, but he improved them by adding mirrors and other amenities. And he told this story once that 10 years after he did the orchids arriving, he stopped in a Cleveland hotel room and a maid came in with another maid, and she pointed to him and said, "That's the man. He gave me my first orchid." And he went on to do all sorts of special entreaties to get women into the park, and it really worked. For the women who worked the night shift during World War II, he had Rosie the Riveter morning games at 9 a.m. and all women wearing their welding caps or riveting masks were admitted free. The ushers wore nightgowns and nightcaps, and they served breakfast. But he went on to do special nights for A students and their parents and their teachers, and they were all admitted free. Special nights for the Girl Scouts and their families. He would do vegetable and fruit nights, giving away free turkeys and geese and pigs on livestock nights, gave away free lunches and had swing band nights, and gave away S&H green stamps. So there was this huge effort then to incorporate women into the fan base, and they responded beautifully. And the impact his son, Bill Veeck's son, minor league baseball owner Mike Veeck, has continued with. He has this fun is good philosophy, and we've tried to bring that to Povich Field. One of the things I thought of, I'm a baseball mom and I'm a baseball fan, but one of the things we started at Povich Field was Treasures for Trash, because I looked around and I realized that about in the 8th inning, there was trash all over the ballpark, and we as the people running the park were going to have to clean it up. So we did this, we do it every night in the bottom of the 7th inning. We tell the kids if they come and get a trash bag from the concession stand and they fill it up, we'll give them a treat, and we give them like an ice pop or some candy. And the rest of the moms say, I can't even get my kid to pick up his room, and now you have her picking up other people's trash. What's the secret? So it was sort of a mom or a female look at baseball and how it was operating, and came up with an idea that worked, and we still do it, and other teams have adopted our same trash picking up philosophy, and it's helped everyone around. So I am mystified as why these great ideas in the 40s, 50s, 60s, and that we see in the minor leagues aren't adopted more widely. Christine, do you have any idea why these sort of female-centered ideas for getting better attendance have not had much success on the major league level?
Peggy, I would assume that there is a bit of a conflict going on inside some leaders and baseball officials' heads, because those were fun and great. Like, I'm smiling, right, as I'm hearing you tell those stories. And Bill Veeck always, I remember the exploding scoreboard of the White Sox, and we would go to White Sox games to visit my grandparents when we were visiting my grandparents on the south side of Chicago. As kids, my dad was the Pied Piper with season tickets, hence my love of sports. And in addition to playing with me, also take me and my siblings to all kinds of games: Michigan football season tickets, University of Toledo football season tickets, Detroit Tigers tickets, Toledo Marlins season tickets. So, we were going to games nonstop, and White Sox. So the Bill Veeck story, and Eddie Goodell, of course, is one of the classics of all time. If people don't know that story, you can just Google him. But that's all great, but there was I believe there was an inherent, kind of a wife, as the second fiddle, you are the appendage, you are the partner in this kind of feel to some of that, right? It was, it was clearly a different time. It was a Mad Men time, right? Where women were, the men were out. I mean, thank goodness for women doing what they did, of course. I mean, thank God for my mom, who was a full-time stay-at-home mom. Fantastic. But I think there is now, the world would recoil at the thought of we are going to give women, or assume that, like, well, and again, I know this wasn't the point of your question, but, you know, give them, have it be more of a sexist or feminist or traditional role that the woman is playing. Well, you know, women are not playing, the traditional role now for women is head of household, obviously working in the home and working outside the home, as is the husband or the partner or whatever. So I think the bottom line is, I think that's hard to put a square peg in a round hole, you know, and I think that's where baseball's got a bit of a problem, because you don't want to just have something that just screams out, this is sexist, this is assuming a woman doesn't know baseball. And I know that's not what you're saying, but that was what I think in many ways it was the genesis of this. We're going to teach you about the game. I know the NFL's tried that. We're going to have a wine and cheese and watch an NFL game together. Ugh. You know, I think, you know, this is 2020. We don't need, you know, those things. Women know football, women know baseball. So maybe there's a way to do it where you're including the whole family, or maybe, and again, certainly there's alumni nights, right? So that would attract women. You know, I know that the Nats have done that with Maryland and I'm sure GW and George Mason and Virginia Tech and all that. So I think there's those kinds of things where you're treating men and women equally, because my guess is there's probably a lot of women that know exactly, know a ton about baseball and probably know as much as their boyfriend or their husband or their brother. And so I think that is, that's why I started my answer with saying there's probably some conflict there, because I think it's how do you do this? And I think also to get kids involved. So mom and dad, you want them at the game because you want the kids at the game, because that the 10-year-old girl is going to be the 50-year-old fan in 40 years. And, you know, is she going to be watching baseball, or is she going to be doing other things when she's 50 years old? That's the key question to me for the demographics of baseball moving forward.
Well, I hear you about not wanting the sort of the pink jersey syndrome where they just turned all their merchandise pink, which was such a lame response. But currently women are throughout baseball, but in sort of unseen ways. You know, women house college players and some of the players in the lower minor leagues in their homes. They're the base of booster clubs, and they host dinners. They work in the front offices. They manage a lot of the logistics of baseball teams. And we've had players, you know, even from Isla Borders, the pitcher for Mike Veeck's St. Paul Saints, and she pitched for 3 other teams. And I've seen some incredible player photographs, mostly women pitchers playing in men's leagues. Back to 1907, there was a pitcher wearing a long dress and pitching. But so it wasn't just league of their own teams during World War II, but the several dozen women who played for high school hardball teams and still do now, the Negro League teams, and the women who work as umpires throughout baseball. But that, Christine, you know, really is a separate story about how tough it's been for women to break in as umpires. I've not understood why in this day and age we're so far along in equality in so many employment spheres. Do you have any thoughts about why it's still been such resistance for women being umpires, not even playing the game, but umpiring the sport?
That is absolutely a missed opportunity for Major League Baseball and all leagues. I mean, the NFL now has obviously a few women referees, and we're seeing, I know that there are women in the umpiring ranks. If I were Rob Manfred, I would announce, again, under the guise of not only doing the right thing, but doing the thing that is going to increase your success and make sure you're still around as a sport in 50 years. Sounds dramatic, but I do think that's a real issue for Major League Baseball and baseball, the game of baseball, which again, I love. This is not negative towards baseball. It was my first love with my Toledo Mud Hens. But if I'm Manfred, I am saying we are going to pick 100 women who, we're looking for them, and we are going to start an initiative, kind of like the Rooney Rule in the NFL, where you must interview a man to be a head coach of the NFL. some success there, and also not some, obviously, issues yet to be determined, and more, the NFL needs to do a better job with that. All leagues need to do a better job with that. This isn't just about women, but since we're talking about women, obviously, but there are other issues, people of color, et cetera. But why not? Why not say we're looking for 100 women who love baseball, either played softball, at great athletes, and we're going to train them because we want to have, and you're going to have some attrition, right? And I'm just making this up as we're talking right now. But maybe you end up with all said and done, I don't know what the normal rate would be, 50 to 75, then who now are ready to be, AA ball umps, AAA ball, and, work their way up. And so that almost every game now has a woman umpire. And maybe you have an all-woman umpiring crew, the way the other day on the Monday Night Football game, you had an all-black, all-African-American, obviously men, but a refereeing crew for a Monday Night Football game. That was a huge statement, because you're trying now with all of these sports, you're trying to reach the mom and dad or the grandparents or whoever, or the two dads or the two moms, whoever's raising children these days. And you're trying to reach the 10-year-old boy or girl.
Right.
So all of a sudden you've got women umpiring, but this isn't just going to happen organically. I think the sexism is so inherent in our society, and I never look for that. And I'm not complaining, but let's just be honest here. That's what we're talking about. It's a man's world in baseball. And so you need to have initiatives from someone like a Rob Manfred, or have a committee, whatever. And Kim Ing is, got her plate full, but get her involved and really make sure you're making the effort, because it's just not happening organically. We have the facts. And so you've got to do something extraordinary to attract women to be a huge part of the game of baseball, so that you can attract women fans who say, hey, this is a sport that I can cheer for because I can see someone like me out there on that field.
Well, I think this idea is emerging. There's now a Women in Baseball conference. It's now approaching its third year. They just had their second conference virtually, and they celebrated all the African-American women who have been in baseball, which is really, really wonderful. Big Train Baseball at Povich Field really wants to become the most welcoming, fan-friendly environment in all of baseball. And we know the moms are some of the major people who decide where the family goes for entertainment. So I'd love to chew over what you think Big Train, which is a college wooden bat league, what can they do to make the game at Povich Field even more fun for the fans than it already is, to try to grow that fan base for baseball?
Well, I think that obviously we're in a pandemic, and we're going to get out of the pandemic hopefully sooner rather than later. And anything that you can have be safe and encouraging with an entire, where all the kids can come. I mean, it seems to me that that's a huge thing. So, and I hate to say that baseball isn't just the draw itself, but we see with a lot of the new major league parks or newer parks that there's a Ferris, or not Ferris wheel, but a merry-go-round, and there's play areas and, sandbox and little San Diego, I know outside the field wall has, because I've seen it in San Diego, has a cute little baseball diamond the kids can run around, but you can look into the stadium. And I think anything to attract, I think it's all about that future demographics and obviously, and current demographics, to get people in and to have it just be pure fun. Because, Peggy, I think if anything, sports is supposed to be fun. And I know some of my comments and answers have been much more societal and cultural in answering your questions. But let's not lose sight of the fact that this is supposed to be a joyous thing. And so to make it just as fun as possible, I think, and if it's, giveaways, and if it's a chance to do something else while you're watching the game, I think that's all great fun. And get kids on the field to run the bases. I'm sure you probably do things like that anyway, but have as much interaction with these kids because they're playing sports, right? And so even if they're not playing baseball, if they're playing soccer, they're running around. We'll get them running around on a baseball field, even if they're there with their moms and dads.
Well, there even is a Ferris wheel in baseball. The Tiger Stadium in Detroit has a little Ferris wheel. And we went there for opening day, and the woman who was the head groundskeeper had such a high pressure situation that day because it snowed, and she had to decide whether to water the field, and it could have been disastrous and call off the game. And I bring this up because I think that there are women in some key positions. For example, at the New York Yankees, the woman who was the broadcaster for the internal audio system. And those women need to get more attention. We need to know that there are chief groundskeepers who are women in baseball and how they got up to their position, and not just have them be so anonymous and in the background.
Oh, and Susan Waldman is the voice of the Yankees, a dear friend of mine and someone who's been doing this, now for a long time. And so, yeah, when you turn on a Yankees game on the radio and you hear Susan Waldman's voice, and that is a huge statement, because again, that just says to everyone, hey, this women can be a part of this. Says that to girls and boys and everyone else. You can tell, obviously, a big part of my thing is that next generation and bringing kids up and having those role models. And so, yes, absolutely. And, it would be great. I would say one thing, even just a public relations firm or a major effort, if MLB were really pushing this, and other organizations too, to have media write about these people. And we are doing some of this, and TV networks, and have features. Obviously, most of the networks and TV, and right now, everyone's been so focused on the election and the pandemic, but feel-good stories are important. And so I agree with you. I think we need to do, everyone needs to do a better job, including in the media, of telling these stories and making sure that people understand that these women are out there and they're doing a great job.
They are. We have 3 Big Train supporters we want to bring into this conversation. But first, I need to tell you about some of the Big Train auction items that you can bid on online at bigtrain.org. One, there's this very classy rose gold toned stainless steel bracelet watch, and it can be for a man or a woman, from Guess Watches. A Bill Veeck Bobble-Leg. Bill Veeck had a wooden leg due to a war injury, and he made it humorous. He had an ashtray drilled into the leg. So instead of a bobblehead, we have a bobble leg. My friend, Hollywood and Broadway star Kathleen Turner, has agreed to record a phone message for you in that fabulous voice of hers, the voice of Jessica Rabbit. You remember the line, "I'm not bad, I'm just drawn that way." She was also Maddie Walker in Body Heat. And take a look at the rare Abbott and Costello 3D comic book, a volume 1, number 1 comic book from November 1953. Okay, the first of our special guests tonight is Rachel Northridge, a longtime Big Train fan and now a member of the board of the Bethesda Community Baseball Club. Welcome, Rachel. Please share your story from Big Train fan to volunteer, and now your position with Monumental Sports.
Everyone, thanks for having me. So as Peggy mentioned, I'm Rachel Northridge. I grew up in Potomac, and I started attending Big Train games in its inaugural season. So summer nights at Povich were a frequent pastime for my family. My brother and I played baseball and softball respectively growing up. So my parents were very keen to have in-house role models. So we ended up hosting having 7 summers of hosting Big Train players. And along the way, I've also was a member of the inaugural Big Train Leadership Committee. So my first internship of what ended up being 7 in the sports industry before I got my first real job. So I also studied sports public relations at James Madison University, and I received my master's degree from Georgetown University in sports management. After that, I worked for a few seasons for the ESPN radio station that was managed by what's now called the Washington football team. And I'm currently in my 5th season with Monumental Sports, where I manage Capital One Arena's 100 suites for our normally scheduled about 200 events a year. So I've worked team side in professional hockey, basketball, and football, but I personally love baseball too much. I gotta have some semblance of work-life balance and keep my off season in the summer, right? So Big Train coming with an opportunity to join the board and come full circle to be able to be involved and to help in any way has been really awesome.
That's so great. And what was your reaction, Rachel, when you learned that Kelly Jenkins had become the first female to play in the Cal Ripken League in 2019? How proud of you were you of Kelly and the Big Train?
She was awesome. I was thrilled. Again, I grew up playing softball, not baseball, and the fact that that she played, well with the boys, but also her first inning, she had a clean inning. So good for her. And I think that that got a lot of respect from the players and her opponents. Not only was she a woman that did that, but she did it anyway, So I think she was fantastic. And I'm one of many people that are proud of her.
So special. Well, the Big Train is really committed to bringing back the fun to Povich Field in 2021 after this awful 2020. And my husband Bruce knows that the strength that women have brought to the operations of the Big Train. He appointed 2 women to chair the marketing and entertainment committee, and Rachel is one of them. So Rachel, how can the Big Train be even more attractive to its female fans?
Sure, and I think Christine has expertly touched upon this. For me, it's ultimately showing respect and representation. I think this applies to Big Train, but also in other teams, other leagues, and just anything in this sports industry. We're seeing a fundamental marketing shift away from that pink jersey, and we don't need that. We can recognize that a female sports fan is just as educated and just as passionate as the male sports fan. So we don't need to market to them to check off this token, checklist for business development purposes. So I think that's been super important. But also on another level, women don't just mean moms, and that's important. Relying on marketing to moms as the only way to reach a woman is somewhat outdated. Now we recognize women. I was that 10-year-old at Povich, and so we recognize that girls are young girls, girly girls, tom girls, students, young adults, middle-aged, single, married, mother or not, casual sports fan or avid baseball fan. So I think treating women as the wide demographic that we are is the more intelligent and modern way to market to women.
Terrific. Instinctively, we know that better decisions are made when more diverse points of view are taken into consideration. When more women and more minorities are given a seat at the table, fresh new ideas get the consideration they deserve. As Jackie Robinson proved, baseball was a better game once everyone got to play. So I'm pleased to bring into our conversation 2 folks who have broken their share of glass ceilings. Mimi Kress is the Chief Operating Officer of Sandy Spring Builders, the folks who built the Shirley Povich Field Clubhouse and a winner of the Randy School's Big Train Outstanding Service Award. And Maryland State Senator Cheryl Kagan, who has had a distinguished career in philanthropy and public service. Ladies, you've succeeded in fields traditionally dominated by men. Tell us what you've learned that can help the women who are climbing to the highest rungs of baseball. Tell them how they can be successful and how that success can broaden the appeal of America's pastime. Mimi, you go first.
Thank you, Peggy and Christine. This has been fascinating to listen to, and I'm sure I've seen Rachel at the Big Train. As you mentioned, my partner and I, thrilled from day one, putting a shovel in the ground to see the Big Train come out of the ground. I've worked in a predominantly male culture in the construction industry for all my adult life, so 40 years. And I think, I've spoken to a lot of women over the years, different ages, different levels. We're talking about general managers, but there's all levels. We need more female umpires, more, on all different levels of the game. But I think my sense of what I usually tell women, particularly when you're in a culture like that, is, you have to show up, you have to know your job. And sometimes you have to know a little more than your job because you are going to be judged differently. When I was young and out on a construction site, they figured, kind of like the pink jersey concept, they figured I was just there because there were a lot of guys. I was there to become a builder, and that was my sole focus. I didn't really care about the rest of it. So I needed to know my stuff, basically, so it's important that you really know your stuff. And, it's the old line of, you don't want to be considered aggressive, but you need to be assertive, and you need to demand the respect you deserve. And, as Christine mentioned, it's not just Major League Baseball, it's all of our major league sports that have struggled with the old boy network culture, a lot of violence against women issues, and they're all trying to do a better job. But they need to take ownership of that, and the women need to not put up with that culture and not let them off the hook and demand the things that they're getting. So, I think my main advice is, don't accept those limitations. We need to keep breaking those barriers. And just because it's been a male culture, it does not have to stay that way. It doesn't mean we need orchids and pink jerseys and girls' night out and things like that. You know, whether it's a Big Train game or I'm a huge Nats fan and, you know, I love my seats right there at first base. I don't need anything special. I just, you know, we need to be recognized as we make up a little more than half the population. So if they're ignoring women at all levels, they're making a big mistake. So I think, you know, we just need to keep showing up and pushing for those things.
That's great. Mimi, that's so wise. And Cheryl, your thoughts on this from your experience?
So I totally agree with the fabulous Christine Brennan on one of the many things she said just now, which is that sexism is inherent in our society. And that is true in baseball. It's certainly true in politics. So in baseball, I was thinking about this. I think when we see role models, whether that is Christine Brennan, whether it is the movie A League of Their Own, or Doris Kearns Goodwin's book, Wait Till Next Year, when we see women in baseball, we connect to it more. Similarly, when we see women in politics, and think of all the young girls and young women who are now going to grow up knowing that being vice president or president of the United States is an option is just such a thrill. When I was first elected, they sometimes referred to us as lady senators, not senators. I didn't remember on the ballot being voted for to be a lady senator, and so offensive. And yet they didn't even know that that was an offensive term. So every day can be a battle. I think it takes in baseball and in politics and in life, it's discipline and dedication. I think women sometimes are very focused on teamwork, which is great, but we also have to be mindful about being the leader and not being scared of that we have to also step up and take credit and be the sponsor of the bill and not just the co-sponsor, be the one who gets an issue, gets a job done. We can seek joy in accomplishments, and that goes again in sports as well as in politics, and understand that sometimes we just make incremental progress. We're not always going to win every game, but if we improve our batting average or we pass a bill we've been working on for several years, that's great. And we really, I think baseball players, one of the reasons that girls and women should celebrate baseball players and why Big Train and Junior League and Collegiate League are so important is the connection to community. Because there are so many games in a season, they are at the grassroots. They're in the community, they volunteer, they meet families, and they give back. In the same ways, elected officials, candidates, and public servants are in the community, eager to solve problems. And the last thing I just want to mention is that it is all of our jobs, as whether we are reporters, builders, general managers, or senators, it is our job to help role model and create the next generation of women leaders and help encourage people to follow in our footsteps so that we can break that glass ceiling and make sure there are many, many more to come.
Sensational, Cheryl. My thanks to Christine, Rachel, Mimi, and Cheryl for making us smarter about how baseball can better serve its fans, all of its fans. Bruce will be back with a presentation of 2 of this year's Randy School's Big Train Outstanding Service Awards right after a word from our sponsors at the Dandy Walker Alliance.
1 in 10,000 children are born with a brain malformation known as Dandy Walker syndrome. Dandy Walker can cause enlargement of the skull, lack of muscle control, and other developmental challenges. More research is needed, but we do know that early therapy helps many live healthier, fuller lives. 1 in 10,000 may not seem like a lot unless your child is the one. Learn more, find help, and help others. Visit dandy-walker.org.
Thanks to Peggy and Christine. In 2002, the Bethesda Community Baseball Club established the Randy School's Big Train Outstanding Service Award to honor our Booster Club chair and longtime community leader, Randy Schools. On November 15th, we presented this award to 3 leaders of BCC baseball. Last Sunday, we honored our friend Hank Thomas, the grandson and biographer of our namesake, Walter Big Train Johnson, along with our indispensable trainer, Christy Voigt. 2 more awards will be presented on December 6th. The Randy Schools Big Train Outstanding Service Award goes to those special people who have made significant contributions to our organization. Tonight, I'm very pleased to present the Randy Schools Award to Emily Waldman and Ann Fletcher, the co-chairs of our host family program. Big Train manager Sal Colangelo and I know that our host family program has been one of the very important reasons Big Train has been so successful. When the players return to their colleges each fall, they rave about the fabulous experiences they've had in Bethesda. Sal is indeed a master recruiter, but he knows he can't do what he does without Emily and Ann. So let's listen to what a few of our players told BigTrain.tv this summer.
Yeah, all the families here, all our host families, some of my friends have awesome host families. I had an incredible one with the Coles, and it always drives me to come back up here and spend time with them and spend time with my other teammates and really just be back into the same area that I was once in last summer.
Well, I was going to mention the Coles, and I'm happy you brought them up. You have a very special relationship with the Coles. It's an entire family, but in particular with Ryan Cole, a 15-year-old. Dandy Walker syndrome, that's something that's been debilitating for him, but you really have found the inner light of him and really just enjoy hanging out with him.
Yeah, no, he's a great kid, and he has a lot of interesting things that he likes to do, and a lot of them have to do with baseball. I mean, he loves to score baseball, loves to watch baseball, and so it was something that was able to click between me and him, and we were able to bond and share that together, and it just carried through the whole summer, and I enjoy spending my time with him.
Honestly, I didn't really know what to expect going in. You know, this was my first time, you know, living in someone else's house. You know, you do the sleepover thing with friends, but like, no, you're living there. And, you know, I wasn't sure what to expect, but I knew they were doing it for the first time too. So it was like, we kind of just figured it out together. They were really open-minded to bringing me in, accepting me, treating me as part of their family, always asking me to do things. And I just said, yeah, absolutely. You know, like, you're hosting me, you're opening up your home to let me live there for an entire summer. Dirty college baseball player, you know, like, the least I can do is have a couple meals and, you know, play catch in the yard and that sort of thing. So, I mean, it was such a great experience. It couldn't have worked better. You know, obviously we still keep in touch, and it's just amazing that, you know, from not knowing what to expect at all, it turned into such a great relationship that's carried through the years.
So, Ann, we sure are glad that worked out so well with Kit. That was 2013, and you've become such an important part of the Big Train family since. What has it meant to you and your family? And tell us about how Grayson's experience with your boys of summer.
So our family in general, it's just been an incredible experience for, it is actually like the absolute highlight of our year. We look forward to it all year. We talk about it all year. We think about it all year. As soon as the players come out, we start to think about who would fit into our family. And then we enjoy being with the player when they're here, when we're with them. But in terms of Grayson's experience, it really opened up his eyes to college baseball, and he got to bat boy for the team for many years. He really got to know a lot of the players, a lot of the coaches. He still keeps in touch with them, and it really cemented for him that his goal was to play in college. And now, as a junior in high school, that is what he is working towards.
Well, it works. My son was the bat boy the first few years, and he had a pretty good college career. So it's a great advantage for these kids to get to be up close with these great players. Emily, please tell us about how you got involved and what the experience has meant to your family, and especially for your kids.
So Big Train Baseball has just been an integral and very special part of my family summers for the past 8 years. We began hosting players in 2013, and we've hosted 1 or 2 players every year since. And then Ann and I became the co-host coordinators in 2016. Our family, and particularly our 3 kids, Ben, Max, and Rebecca, have formed really special bonds with many of our players. They've been like role models, they've been older brothers, and then as the kids have gotten older, they've been friends. It's just been a great experience to have the players around the house. They provide energy and enthusiasm. The kids are often a little better behaved when they're around. And it's also been interesting because the players have come from all over the country. We've hosted players from California, Tennessee, Ohio, and Florida. And as you can imagine, our family isn't used to having a lot of serious college athletes in our house. So just hosting a player has allowed us to be part of Big Train in kind of an intimate way and made us appreciate what an important role Big Train plays in the community. And so I just want to thank you and the Bethesda Community Baseball Club for this award. It really means a lot to me.
Well, thank you. So, Emily, I know this takes a lot of work and a lot of time. Could you, for those who are out there watching and thinking maybe I could be a host family, could you give us a sense of the timing for next year?
Sure. So while we don't know exactly what next summer will be like due to the pandemic, we are extremely hopeful that we'll have a season and we will need host families. So as Bruce mentioned, host families are such a valued part of the program and critical to ensuring a successful Big Train season. So assuming the schedule remains similar to years past, we welcome the players in the very beginning of June, and they're here for about 2 months, so until early August. And many of the past host families have had incredibly rewarding experiences. I just want to mention that we're thrilled to have Amy Matouche join us as a host family coordinator this year. Amy's family has hosted Big Train players for the past few years, and she, Ann and I all attend a lot of the Big Train games, so you've probably seen us around. So if you'd like more information, you can, I believe Chris's email is on the screen. You can contact him, and Ann, Amy, or I would be delighted to talk to you more in depth about hosting and what it entails.
Thank you. And how early next year should they be in touch with you?
We generally start collecting host family profiles in March or April. We can't ever do the matches until the middle of May, just because there's a lot of roster changes. But you know, you can reach out to us at any point. Ann and I keep a running list of interested families. And so if you let us know even now that you're interested, we'll put you on the list. And then when we send out that request for host family profiles, we'll make sure that you receive a copy.
Well, it's clear the host families are the key to the success of the Big Train. You guys do a fabulous job. Congratulations on the award. I hope you enjoy this framed replica of the print of Big Train Baseball at Povich Field, done by the famed printmaker Joseph Craig English. He did that in 1999, our inaugural season. So I'm pleased to welcome my friend Cheryl Kagan, the state senator from District 17, representing the many Big Train fans in Rockville and Gaithersburg. Cheryl, thank you for donating a Zoom conversation with you for our auction. And I got to tell you, it's okay for you to also root for the Gaithersburg Giants. I understand politics. I know you're a huge advocate for our nonprofit community. Would you tell us how important volunteers like Emily and Ann are to Montgomery County's nonprofit community?
Absolutely. So first off, I am in my Annapolis office, which is a thing because since March, I've only been here like 3 times. Right. So, but when Bruce asked me to do this, of course, whenever Bruce Adams asks you to do anything, the only answer is yes, because the king of all things community and all things volunteerism is the wonderful Bruce Adams. And Emily and Ann, thank you for what you've done to build community, to support the athletes, to create such a great experience for your youngins, your kids to experience an athlete who's learning, growing, practicing, and achieving, and setting such a good example for your kids. But really, volunteerism is what makes Montgomery County such a special place to be. And you all are just at the pinnacle of the kind of dedication that it takes to make nonprofits like Big Train Baseball really function and flourish. And so congratulations. Craig English is one of Montgomery County's own and a great artist. I own 2 of his artworks, actually, 2 of his pieces, and they're very special to me. I know that you'll enjoy them. And so congratulations and thank you for your leadership and all that you do.
Thank you, Cheryl, Ann, and Emily. Our newly reconstituted Bethesda Community Baseball Club is putting a high priority on recruiting volunteers to help us bring the fun back to Shirley Povich Field in 2021 after this really difficult year. In addition to our very important host family committee, we've established a youth advisory committee and a bullpen club for adult volunteers. So if you're a student looking for student service learning hours or an adult seeking a really fun experience with a high quality nonprofit, consider being a Big Train volunteer in 2021. Please email our general manager, Chris Rogers, and become a part of our Big Train family. Help us give our fans the welcoming small town charm and big league talent that's Big Train baseball at Povich Field. So we're looking for host families, we're looking for scorekeepers, ushers, foul ball chasers, and more. If you have a welcoming personality and enjoy helping others, Big Train might be the place for you. So now our Hall of Fame manager, Sal Colangelo, will present the 2019 Big Train Outstanding Relief Pitcher Award. It's all yours, Sal.
We've had a lot of great arms come through Bethesda, but Chase Lee was really, really special. He made 16 appearances out of the bullpen in the regular season and gave just 3 earned runs, none of which came after July 1. He led the Cal Ripken League with 48 strikeouts and 25 innings of work, many of them coming on his wicked slider that came out of an unorthodox sidearm delivery. And he continued to shine when the lights were the brightest, not surrendering a single base runner in 3 postseason outings. He struck out the final batter of our season in Game 3 of the LCS, delivering the Big Train a 4th straight league championship. I'm thrilled to present Chase Lee of the University of Alabama with the 2019 Big Train Most Outstanding Reliever Award. Chase, would you like to say anything to the Big Train fans?
Yeah, I just want to say thanks for you guys having me. I had an incredible summer up at Bethesda. Just really enjoyed the town, the community. Thanks everybody for coming out to the games and supporting everyone. I will say I couldn't have done anything without you guys and without the coaching staff and the other players there that just supported me and helped me become the player I am today, allowing me to work on things and get better at things that I really wanted to work on that summer, and really changed who I am and made me the person I am today. So I really thank everybody for supporting the Big Train and what you all continue to do each and every summer.
Well, keep working hard, Chase. One day we'll see you in the major leagues. I appreciate everything you have done and everything that Coach Jackson has said about you prior to you coming was on point. And watching you on TV and be able to have you and coach you in person, it was a true blessing. Continue, stay the path of what you're doing. You're doing it the right way. Don't deviate, get off path. You'll be just fine.
Yes, sir. I appreciate it.
Big Train fans, I hope you've enjoyed the 3rd of our 4 Sunday night holiday auction specials. Next Sunday, December 6th, starting at 7 p.m., right here on BigTrain.tv, Maury Povich will be our special guest, talking about his dad, Shirley Povich, the Hall of Fame sports writer for whom our ballpark is named. Please go online and check out this week's auction. This is your opportunity to pick up fabulous items and special experiences as holiday gifts for family and friends, often at less than full value prices, while helping us prepare for the 2021 season of Big Train baseball at Povich Field. In addition to the featured items I mentioned at the start of the show, there's some other great items. A classy rose gold tone stainless steel bracelet watch for men or women from Guess Watch, a Zoom call with State Senator Cheryl Kagan, architectural design consultation, a weekend at the Hyatt Regency, the best-selling Rage signed by Bob Woodward, a Zoom call with Aviva Kempner, who's done those fabulous documentaries on Hank Greenberg, Mo Berg, and others, and a Volume 1, Number 1, November 1953 Abbott and Costello 3D comic book, just to name a few. Bidding on all these items will close on Wednesday, December 2nd at 10 p.m. After this difficult year, we hope to bring the fun back to Shirley Povich Field. Wouldn't it be great if we could have a Dr. Fauci bobblehead night? And of course, we want to bring back the Aida Cicada at Povich Field t-shirt night from 2004. So we need your financial support to make this happen. Please check out our auction and/or go to the donate button at www.bigtrain.org and contribute $25 or $50 to support affordable family fun right near home. Thanks for watching tonight. Hope to see you next Sunday night, December 6th, when Maury Povich will discuss the life of his Hall of Fame dad, Shirley Povich, in whose honor our ballpark is named. Be strong, stay safe, roll train.